everyone, welcome to another Wildlife Wednesday. My name is Erin and I'm a marine trainee at Ulster Wildlife. Today I'm going to be talking to you about a very well-known material, and that material is plastic. You don't have to look too far to come across plastic. It makes up the building and construction materials of our homes. It's part of our vehicles, our electronics. It's even woven into the fabric of our clothes. I bet you only have to take a quick glance around you now, and I'm sure you can identify 5 or more items composed mainly of plastic. Now, loads of these plastic-based products are designed to stand the test of time. However, due to the reliability of plastic, it being cheap, it's easily moulded, it's strong, it's led to a drastic increase in plastic being used to create single-use items globally, meaning packaging that will often be discarded minutes after purchase. For example, 42% of plastic is produced for packaging used for less than an hour. But why is this a problem? And does much of it really enter our seas? Well, at least 8 million tonnes of plastic marine debris makes its way into our oceans every year, 80% of this being land-based. Sources now say that there will be more plastic in the ocean than fish by 2050 if we continue at this current rate. So we have a lot of work to do. Now, I am in no way immune to this. Looking around my house this morning, I was able to pick up loads of single-use plastic items. It can be really tricky to cut out this problematic plastic. But later on, we're going to talk about reducing all this single-use plastic we purchase. But first, let's take a little look at why it's so important to do so. Marine plastics can be divided into 3 types. We have macroplastics, which are 2.5 centimetres or more, mesoplastics, which are 2.5 centimetres to 5 millimetres, and then we have microplastics, which are the smallest group, can be divided into several other categories, and they are less than 5 millimetres. All of these have devastating impacts on the marine environment. Okay. Firstly, let's talk about ingestion. Turtles absolutely love jellyfish. This little guy is their favourite food source. They see him being pulled around in the currents, being swept along, and they just can't resist going straight in for a bite. Now, I'd say you're able to tell the difference and know that this is in fact not a jellyfish, but is actually made up of plastic. Unfortunately, it's not that easy for a turtle to distinguish between the two, and for this reason they often consume these bags. The plastic can then block the digestive system of these turtles and nothing can pass through. And then unfortunately we have a really high mortality rate due to starvation. We have 7 amazing species of sea turtles in our oceans, and all of them have been known to consume these macro and mesoplastics. More specifically, 52% of all sea turtles have consumed plastic. That is over half. More tragically, it is estimated that 22% that do have a chance of being killed by it. These larger plastics also cause a big problem for our seabirds. While foraging for food for themselves, for their chicks, as well as for material to build their nests, they're increasingly more likely to encounter plastic. For example, something like a red bottle cap is often mistaken for a food source such as shrimp. Predictions now show that 99% of seabirds will have consumed plastic by 2050. One specific study actually followed a population of albatross, of which all the chicks had been exposed to some form of plastic. This was due to their parents either regurgitating substantial quantities of marine plastic debris for their chicks or the leaching of plastic materials from their nests. Some chicks even had 15% of their body weight made up of plastic. A less discussed danger that larger plastics present in our marine environments is their ability to act as a form of transport for invasive species. Take, for example, HMS Plastic here. Now, this may just look like a plastic bottle to you and I, but this is also a boat for invasive species to travel right across the globe. A study carried out along the west coast of America recorded 1 macroplastic as a vessel for roughly 300 species coming from Japan, some of which were invasives. These invasive species may outcompete with native species and alter ecosystems, inevitably leading to some ecological damage, not only in our marine environments, but also our terrestrial ones as well. Now we've touched on only some of the issues of larger marine litter. Many more will be highlighted throughout this month, but it's now evident that something much smaller is becoming one of the major issues for our oceans, and that is microplastics. Either purposely designed to be this small, or created as a result of the larger macro and mesoplastics being weathered after exposure to the elements. So for example, heat from the sun makes these plastics brittle, waves then act almost like scissors, cutting these plastics, breaking them up and creating these microplastics. And these have been seen to wreak havoc across our marine environment. They have been recorded in every corner of our seas, and once they're in there, they're near impossible to remove. Take these 2 jars filled with sand, for example. This one has paper in it the size of larger macro and mesoplastics scattered throughout. This one has paper in there the size of microplastics. Although still not positive for our marine environment, with a little effort, these macro and mesoplastics can be gathered and removed. The same cannot be said, however, for the microplastics within this jar. And once they're in there, they're near impossible to remove from their environment. One of the big issues with microplastics being present in our marine environment is their ability to enter our food chain. These microplastics are taken up by microscopic plankton at the base of all marine food webs. These then work their way up the trophic levels, being consumed by invertebrates, which are then consumed by fish, and which are then consumed by larger marine mammals. They have even been known to make their way onto our dinner table, with tests detecting microplastics in seafoods such as mussels and oysters. Not much is known about the direct effects microplastics can have on our health. However, current studies show that the bioaccumulation of microplastics within any species is likely to have negative health effects. A study involving hermit crabs, for example, showed the effects microplastics can have on their cognitive behaviour. Individuals with a longer exposure to microplastics were found to be less likely to be able to select an adequate shell to inhabit. This selection process is crucial for the safety and protection of hermit crabs from predators, so it's quite concerning that a plastic that is so small can threaten the survival of a species. But it's not all doom and gloom. Changes in the amount of awareness this topic is receiving are evident, from biodegradable alternatives being picked up by big brands to a lot more individuals cutting out and using reusables or non-packaged alternatives. For example, you can be using a reusable coffee cup or reusable cutlery. These are just some of the items you can adopt into your more regular routine. This month, Ulster Wildlife will be taking part in Go Plastic Free July by cutting down on our single-use plastic. So far, I've come in quite hard with the threats, and we will continue to raise awareness of the negative impacts single-use plastics have throughout the month of July. But we are also going to be showing you some positive steps that we can all adopt to make a difference. By following us on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, we hope to raise awareness, and you'll be able to see some of the inspiring tips on how to cut down on single-use plastics, including when to refuse, how to reduce and reuse, as well as when to repurpose items to become that little bit more sustainable. Later on today, you'll be introduced to the rest of our SEAS team. To start the month, we've all picked and selected a product that involves single-use plastic, and we've picked a way to swap it out for July with a more sustainable alternative. So we'll be showing you those later, but we also want to hear from you. Tell us how you cut out pointless plastic and tag us at Ulster Wildlife with the hashtag #GoPlasticFreeJuly so we can share your helpful tips and tricks. We do have other challenges to come throughout the month, but you'll have to stay tuned to hear more about those. So please tune in later to help us reduce our pointless plastic. Thanks.